To describe the remarkable woman you're about to meet as an activist does her no justice at all. To describe her as a quantum physicist would be equally inadequate. Here is why.
Food is a weapon. They said when you sell real weapons and arms, you control armies. When you control food, you control society. When you control seed, you control life on earth. It just so happens that throughout history, in every culture, it's women who kept the seed. I'm born in the Himalayan forest, and non-separation from nature was quite clearly a lesson. We had a classroom out in those forests. I chose as a young child to do physics, even though the schools I went to didn't offer it, because for me, physics was about understanding how the world works. So at the end of it, I did a PhD in foundations of quantum theory, and it's quantum theory that taught me how to make connections. Because of my book, I got invited to a biotech meeting where I realized what the industry wanted to do with the seed, which is to take control of the seed through patenting. That's when I started. I took a commitment to start saving seeds, but I also realized it's not enough to talk anymore. Got to do it.
40% of the solution to climate change lies in organic, ecological farming in the hands of small farmers.
Can't wait for governments and corporations to make the shift. People must. A GMO forced on people without a label is a criminal act.
Monsanto is proud to be the industry leader in agricultural innovation.
Monsanto sneaked into the budget law a clause that no court could ever rule against them.
We're committed to helping farmers double yields by 2030.
GMOs haven't produced more, there's only one way: ecological farms, small farms. And yet, we get the propaganda, without GMOs people will starve, without chemicals people will starve. We have enough innovation and technologies to grow more food without killing our farmers. You have to throw the light of disclosure in order to break these secret bonds between manipulated officials, manipulated GMOs, and manipulated science. This is Gandhi. 7 social sins. Politics without principles, wealth without work, pleasure without conscience, worship without sacrifice. If I hadn't felt the imperative to come back to India, both to answer the puzzle of the disconnect between big science and big poverty, as well as just this urge to give back. I didn't know how I'd give back, but I had to give back. Little old lady from India. Oh, why does she drive you nuts?
May I request Hemendra Kothari, banker, philanthropist, wildlife protector, and a pillar of support for the Sanctuary Nature Foundation to come on stage to present this award. Ladies and gentlemen, the Sanctuary Lifetime Achievement Award for 2018 goes to the one and only Vandana Shiva. Vandana, please share your word with us.
I feel so honored being with the young awardees who are teaching us again we are an Aranya Sanskriti, a culture of the forest. Who are teaching again that we are Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, the earth as family. We went crazy that we had 300 million divinities, which is the species on earth. We made everything divine. And they want to fight over stone. And as I heard each of them, and I went back over, the last few years, where they really thought it was over for earth protectors, for earth lovers, for earth defenders. And I remembered a Mexican proverb which said, they thought they'd buried us. They forgot we are seeds. And that wonderful film, which started with that last flower, began with the seed. And my life has been dedicated for the last 30 years to protecting the diversity, the self-organization, the wildness, the freedom in the seed. My own journey for the service of the earth began in the early 70s when I saw one forest and one stream disappear. And I said I was going to give my life to the earth. And I found Chipko along the way, volunteered for them, till we got a logging ban in 1981. The journey of the seed, you've heard. We've been so burdened with separations, the totally artificial separation of humans and nature, when we are nature, we are the soil, we are the trees, we are the water. And as Bittu reminded us, we are animals, we are primates. And the word vegetable used to mean to be alive. Now they say to vegetate means to be dead. To be animal means to be alive. And they want to define being animal as beings that don't know how to behave themselves, that are brutal. No, it's an insult to animals. We should start complimenting people. You are like an animal. And if my journey started 45 years ago because of one little patch of forest and one little stream going, I'm looking at extinction of our species. And thank you for announcing that next year's Earth Day will be dedicated to the protection of our species, because we've driven other species to extinction, assuming that we will be saved. 200 species disappearing a day. And just in the last few decades, as chemical agriculture, industrial farming, toxic spread in the world, we've lost 70% of all animals, 93% of all freshwater fish. We've lost 93% of our cultivated crops. And 50% of all the climate damage is coming from an industrial mode of poisoning the earth. I don't call it farming. I don't call it agriculture, because agriculture means care for the earth, and conservation means care. 75% of the destruction of the soils and our waters comes from this bad system of producing bad food. And starving people, 1 billion people, every year don't have enough food. And 2 billion are sick because they're eating bad food. 75% of the chronic diseases are now identified by scientists as related to the food we are eating. The cancer epidemic. There's a train that leaves Punjab called the cancer train. It used to be the breadbasket of India, not the cancer epicenter. And in that little seed, we have found an answer to every problem we are facing today. Farmer suicides, unemployment, rejuvenation of the soil, 100% solution to climate change. Remembering once again that nature is alive and free. And I think we should work together over the next few years, overcoming all of these separations, because I don't think there's wildlife conservers, because we are wildlife. The soil that gives us food is full of wildlife. Without those organisms, it's desertified soil, trillions of organisms. And for those of us who've become so arrogant in the anthropocentrism, we are 90% wildlife. 90% of us in our gut microbiome, which people are now calling both the second brain, the place where most neurological activity takes place, as well as the forest within. How long will we pretend we can escape from nature and trample her and kill her? Whether it's the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change or the Intergovernmental Panel on Biodiversity and Ecosystem Services, both are warning. We've got 100 years before we are extinct if we continue on this path, which has been called the path of progress, the path of development. How can the path of extinction be a path of progress unless you call extinction progress? Around the world, young people are rising and saying, we will not allow you, the irresponsible adults, to push us to extinction. There's an extinction rebellion taking place. I call it the Satyagraha for life. The refusal to cooperate with the untruth of economies that create billionaires and destroy the planet. Of economies that have forgotten that the word economy comes from oikos, our home. We have one home, this common home. We share it with all the other species. Protecting them is protecting our future. And a lot of people are saying extinction is inevitable. Extinction is avoidable if we remember we are off this earth. Our existence depends on the earth and nature, and there's only one reason that we are alive: to serve her, to love her, protect her, and simple acts of eating every time. By being co-creators with the earth, you're saving a butterfly, a tiger, a water system, a forest. Let's make those connections and revive this ecological civilization and avoid the collapse of the civilization and the collapse of our species. We join hands, our join hearts, and our join our minds. We can do it. Thank you.